It's just no one else that's supporting Walmart understood that Walmart was going to go digital and the reason Walmart was going digital is because the customer has gone digital. Mm-hmm. Their behaviors have changed. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because Amazon's beating them. No, it's because the customer demand has changed. And customer demand changes because technology changes.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
Welcome to the Matt Woolley Podcast. Please like and subscribe. Today, I have one of my favorite all-time people, Eric, the man.
Thank you.
Howerton. So, do people know you?
No one knows me. No one knows me.
Just full disclosure to all of our listeners out there. We have no set agenda today. And
it's so true, because I asked, what are we going to talk about? And you're like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. And that's the best. And also, Eric owns the studio. So if we want to make this a 3-hour podcast,
we could.
We could.
We could. We can make it 30 hours.
Or 10 minutes.
We could. Anything we want. The world's our oyster, man.
Okay, so thank you for being here, Eric.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
You're welcome. So let's talk about Eric Howerton for a minute.
Okay.
You know, you're a guy that's known for being a digital innovator.
Mm. Yeah.
And you're a guy that's known for owning a new podcast studio that's taken off.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big supporter of music.
I do love music. It's good for the soul.
But I want to know about the real Eric.
Okay.
Not the entrepreneur Eric.
Okay. That's fine. I'll open that can of worms.
Let's open it.
Okay. Was that? Oh,
that's the can.
Okay. Now that makes sense. I didn't know what just happened.
Okay. So, where'd you grow up? Where you from?
I was born and raised in Jonesboro, Arkansas, east side of the state, probably about 45 minutes west of Memphis.
And that's the complete opposite from here.
That is the complete opposite other side of the state from where we're sitting at right now. I was born and raised there. My mom was the kindergarten principal for Jonesboro.
Oh, sweet Mother Mary. Your mom was the principal?
The principal of the kindergarten center. She was the school resource officer for South School, elementary before that. So I grew up, my mom was always around during my, all my school years in Jonesboro.
Did you ever receive any special treatment because of that? Because obviously all of your teachers, your mom was their boss.
Hell yeah. Actually, it was a little bit the opposite, to be honest with you, because if I did anything, why do you keep touching your nose? Because it makes me feel like
I'm itching. No, you're fine. I'm itching.
Okay.
I'm sinusy. Say the word submarine.
Submarine.
See?
Got you. Okay.
It's a tick.
All right, cool. That's fun. It makes the other person from you.
If I did this with the ear, would you think that
there was something in my ear?
You'd have built
no.
up? What about the eye? What if I did?
If you did that, I start feeling like I don't know. I feel like that this podcast show is going to take on a different level. Yeah, that's so. Actually, she if I did anything, even if I had bad grade or something, she would know as soon as I would know. And so. I wouldn't say that it was unfair, but I didn't really get any special treatment. My teachers would know me, obviously, or know my mom, and then that would help build a connection.
It's almost a double. Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
for sure. I was definitely being watched, and kind of not watched intentionally, but I mean there was you know what I'm saying. And so my dad was the.
Do I know what you're saying?
I mean, I don't know. I figured you do. And then my dad ended up being the chair, retired as the chair of the psychology department at Arkansas State University.
Oh, cow.
There we go. That's where everything makes sense now, doesn't it?
So, was that ever used to your advantage or disadvantage?
I think like the fact that my dad studied psychology,
right? Yeah.
He's a professor, doctor of psychology. I mean, I think it worked on me a little bit, maybe in a reverse way.
Right.
Yeah.
So you say you're anti-psychology now?
Oh no, I'm a big advocate of psychology. I mean, reverse meaning I didn't understand what was happening.
What are you getting at here?
I don't really understand what you're asking.
Sorry, people listening are going to think.
Oh, they've already tuned out.
So, for full disclosure to those that are listening or unaware, I know Eric pretty well, and we've developed, I guess you might call it a friendship. Some people think it's a little twisted, because every time we're around each other, we have a good time just, ribbing each other. And it's good. It's good. It's good.
Sounded.
I think of you as a friend. Tell our listeners. Do you think that I'm a friend?
I do. I think that you are. I think you're a friend and a colleague.
Yeah,
a lot.
I like that.
Yeah,
let's go with those.
Too. I think it's good, man.
Let's go with those.
You're good people, Matt.
You're good people. No, you.
No, bro.
Okay.
I like your accent.
Well, runs south, runs deep.
Does run deep.
Runs Tennery. I sound like a Tennery Matthew McConaughey. All right.
Tenor. It's true.
Tennery, man, I do.
Yeah.
I have over the years. I used to hate my voice, and still not a big fan. But whenever people, I call somebody, especially in the days before caller ID was prevalent. Excuse me. They always knew who was calling.
Hell yeah, they did.
Yeah, Matt Woolley.
Matt Woolley calling you.
All right.
Hey.
But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Eric Howerton today. But thank you for bringing a very sensitive subject to light for me. Nothing. All right. Moving forward. So let's talk more about your dad's psychology.
Okay.
Did any of that transfer over? I mean, as far as like professional career and things of that nature. I mean, what did he just kind of keep it? Did he just kind of keep it?
No. I mean, I think that
Did you pick up on that kind of stuff, or?
I do. Like, I think that actually, I didn't know what was necessarily happening as I was getting into marketing in my entrepreneurial career. I mean, but all of it's really psychological in a way.
It is, absolutely. It's 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, like, especially on marketing side, like if I have a strength, it's that I'm able to put myself in an audience and or client shoes, and I can like literally I describe this as where, like, if I was thinking about marketing to you, I would think about what kind of emails are you getting? What's your time look like during your day? How many? What's your stress? What are you undergoing? And then how do I help solve that problem, or how do I communicate through you? To you through being able to empathize, I guess, in a way that I can visualize it, if that makes sense, without getting a little too deep and crazy. But I think that that's something that probably, as I was growing up with my dad's studies and hearing him talk, or hearing him, or like if I'd gotten in trouble or if I did something and having him, describe the lesson of whatever I am to learn, that I was able to kind of relate with other people or relate objectively, would probably be a good way to put it.
It's fantastic.
It is. And then I think that it probably also impacted my entrepreneurial career because, like, as you know, all entrepreneurs are risk takers, or they're taking some element of risk, personal, financial, whatever it is. Like, it didn't really bother me because I could kind of remove myself from that a little bit. Like a lot might be on the line, but I would still be able to quickly go to a greater meaning of life and not make this such a catastrophic circumstance, if that makes sense. Like, everything's going to work out, and it usually does. I mean, I'm doing I at least subconsciously know that I'm doing things for the better of other people, and I'm doing them for the right reasons and ethical and moral and value-based, that, you just kind of stick to that, and things typically work out for people that are trying to push good. Positive almost always wins. I mean, you look at all things, right? Like even wars. I mean, the bad, the evil side can make some victories and cause their damage and win for a little bit, but in most cases, look at our. We wouldn't be around if some of those evil forces would be able to sustain their control. Because you do bad stuff, delivers bad energy back.
I've always said, if you seek good, you'll find it. If you seek bad, you'll find it.
Yeah, true.
And let me ask you this: as a person that's had some ups and downs, obviously in your career, since we're on that subject, do you believe that what you think about, as some subscribe to, affects the outcomes?
Absolutely. I think 100%. I think that, when you're younger, or at least when I was younger, I didn't have as many negative experiences that I've gone through to make me question or have lack of trust or have some, concern that, somebody might do something ill-willed, and so you're kind of naive. Of course, I think that depends on your upbringing. I was fortunate to grow up in a family where I was sheltered and provided for, and not meaning it was perfect and nothing bad ever happened to me, but there wasn't enough frequent events to where I kind of came out and going into college, my young professional career, to where I had a lot of optimism. I just was navigating a little bit of a more optimistic world and opportunistic world versus a survival type world in a way. And I did have a lot of trust, and I had good intentions too. I was just thought we were all working towards something that's better for everyone else, right? That's what you did. It's what you do as a human. But then as you go through that, you meet and you encounter people, circumstances, companies, businesses, freaking organizations or whatever, that break that perception that I had, and which would then cause me, some negative type thinking maybe that comes into the equation, that you actually start becoming more aware of those things. It was interesting, because of some circumstances that caused me to doubt or to be cautious about getting involved in certain relationships or partnerships, whatever they might be, because of the experiences I had. But you have to start catching those. I think you become more aware of those as you go through those trials. And then it's wait a minute, that's a negative thought, to your point, right? This negative thinking can actually lead me into a road of where I'm really isolated. I heard something this morning. It's better to trust someone than to worry about the deceit of someone, because it really just eats away at you. And their other quote is if you're going for revenge, then you might as well dig two graves.
Well, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
That's a good one.
And I think that's something I never had revenge, but but any kind of animosity that you even if you have something bad and you're going back at it, it's usually just as destructive to you as it is to the other person. No,
100%. Well, from Bible teachings to the Stoics, they teach that same thing. It's when somebody wrongs you today, and it just really burns you. You can think about that 2 months, 2 years, 20 years. But then you can approach them about it, let's say 2 years later, and they've forgotten all about it. It just sticks with you longer. And that's I don't know if we define it as a pessimistic approach. it is for, but letting that take root in you does nothing but cause cancer. But I say that firsthand experience because one of the things I've struggled with over the years, since we're getting into the nitty gritty of human interaction, both in business and in personal, I have to really constantly remind myself, assume good intent, and let them show you differently.
Yeah.
And the older I've gotten, the more perspective I see in people too. And you don't assumption just gets everybody in trouble, and sitting in negativity gets everybody in trouble. And quite frankly, I wouldn't say I'm just a complete pessimist, but when I look at any type of deal or situation, I always look at it pessimistically, honestly, at first, more than I do like, this is going to be great. The reason why is because I've been burned a few times.
Yeah.
I've had trusted relationships business relationships that, you thought you had a friend.
Yeah.
And then they turned around, and I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sure.
And you thought you had a friend, and they turned around, and next thing you know, everything's gone sideways, or they're taking your idea, or they betrayed you, this, that, and the other. And, you can sit and wallow in that.
Well, it does nothing better.
It doesn't tear you apart. But it ain't easy, though. See, that's the thing. It's not easy to come out of it. And that's a reality in business, too. It's like there's a lot of ups and downs of business. And obviously, you talk about it on your podcast a lot with Mark, big talk about small business. Let's do it together. Big talk about small business. What platforms you guys on?
Everywhere.
Okay, so they're endless. So you're on.
Well, I mean, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube. Apple, YouTube. You can find us on our website, bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn. I mean, we're pretty well casting, out to
perfect
wherever. Just type it in the Google, type it into the Googles. Google's a fight. You can AI that.
For anybody listening, check out Big Talk About Small Business. It's a great show
for real entrepreneurs by real entrepreneurs.
There you go.
Boom. In that face. But I mean, I think that I like talking about this because this is one of those things that I think every human faces, whether you are in business or not, or you're professional or not. I mean, I think especially in the in any walk of life, like the negative thinking, is predominantly due to experiences that you've had.
It is.
And I don't know, if it happened when you're a child in childhood, you don't really even know what those are. So I think that's why counseling is such a good thing, right? I've seen people that have been negative that just have to dig and deal with things that they don't even know why. And that's a scary journey, but it's also one that I've seen people come through that has been very edifying for them in their life, their perspective. But then if you're older and things happen to you, it can be kind of damaging as well, because you actually did trust and you did go positive, and then something negative happened, and it makes you really kind of gun shy about your own decision making ability, and then that thinking, it starts this negative thinking. Can I make good decisions? Can I judge character? I've had, that was one of my experiences. I've been really good at judging character, I felt like, in my life, who I've involved in my circles. And I wouldn't say my entire life. My teen years were pretty self-destructive, but and so were some of my college. But my young adulthood, I was making good decisions in who I surrounded myself with, and then it get bit, unknowingly. And I had a counselor one time tell me this analogy was really good. It's like you pretend you're walking, every day you take this nice stroll through this field, and the sun, it's early in the morning. Every day you walk through the field, you have the sun, the dew, you got flowers out, and it's just this nice little trail, and you go back and forth, and it's just the best part of your day. It's pleasant, it just makes your day, and you do that for 100 days in a row. That's your experience. Then one day you're walking down the trail, and you step on a snake, and it bites you in the freaking ankle. the next time you go walking down the trail, it's not going to be
this is the trail I got bit.
It's going to be the trail you got bit, but you got to know that like that one snake that was in the trail that one day at that one time, it was circumstantial. It wasn't something that you did, but it's the same trail. Can you overcome your own fear of the snake?
But isn't it funny how people focus that way? One of my favorite sayings is, and believe it or not, the first time I heard this was from, you remember the band Poison? Right? Right. Who doesn't like Poison? But their drummer, Ricky Rocket, was on an interview, and he said, it's the stuff you choke on that you never forget.
That's true.
And I was like, he's absolutely correct. And 100%. And that goes back to what you were just saying is, you have all these great experiences, and let's relate this to the customer too. Do we ever see that happen? Where you're dealing with a customer and 100%. You've had 1,000 wins within that one time,
Yeah.
And I think in those times you get to see people's true colors too.
Oh, totally.
Because they were fine with you as long as everything was rosy. But the minute that there was a ripple, that's when you get to see true reaction.
I just think it's important, like as I've grown up and I'm still got some time to go, right, that the thing about it is that those negative thoughts are really sneaky, like you said before. Like, I mean, it's a complex system. They're complex. They're simple thoughts, but in a complex neural network in your mind. You don't know why you have a feeling. It's emotional tied to it. I mean, like you're on defense, right? Like that snake analogy is really good because, like, I mean, logically, I know that snake, 99.9% of the chance of the time, it's not going to be in that path. But there's that little bit. Now, if I reasoned out of that, then I could probably walk down for confidence. But even if you start to head down that trail, like you don't know that you already have these fears and these emotions. They're just kind of coming into your brain and your thought process. But I think that one thing that I've been going through is becoming more aware of these little foxes that come in to steal a vineyard, right? Like steal the fruit. They pop in. And unless you're just aware of that happening, like you can't, that's a pretty big step, in order to fight them. Because if you don't do that, then you become a victim of those negative thinking, and then negative things will happen to you because all you do is focus on the negative. You're worried about the negative. You're just living in that space, and but whereas if you can kind of shelf that, learn from it, and then be positive, and be opportunistic and see the light, and then speak forth that, and then help people along that way. I mean, it's a lot better place to be.
Absolutely. Are you an emotional person?
Yeah, of course. You are too.
No, I'm not.
That's exactly right.
You can go to hell.
None of that is emotional. None of that was like talking about why. Like she's definitely more. She's more
level set.
Well, so what it is like, do you express?
She really doesn't probably have an option. Probably. I mean, you have enough emotion for the both.
Well, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's a different podcast. But I mean, like she just doesn't express it in the same way, but we all have the same we all have the emotions. There's not an unemotional human, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, like I would say, am I expressive? Yes. Do I feel like love towards you and I hug you? Yes. Right?
And talking about me or your wife?
You.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
And all that in different ways. But I mean, do I like you? Do I, am I excited to meet somebody? Do I, am I wanting to help? And so therefore I feel more freedom to, extend a hand, and I don't, I feel, more, I guess, more freedom to meet somebody and build a relationship with them, I think so.
It's awesome. Let's circle back real quick. How'd you end up in Northwest Arkansas? From Jonesboro.
So when I was in Jonesboro, I was studying photojournalism. That's what I graduated with, a degree in photojournalism. And along that way, I had during the summers, like I guess they're my sophomore during the summers during college, I went off and became a whitewater raft guide in eastern Tennessee on the Big Pigeon River, class 3 and 4. And I mean, it was just me and one other buddy of mine, Jeff Polite. We were just like, man, let's get out of here. Let's get out of Jonesboro, Mosquitoville, right? Like it's just mosquitoes and Crawley's Ridge and hot.
Right.
And so we took off and became whitewater raft guides on the Pigeon River, and that was life-changing.
Well, I bet it was, but I mean, you had no formal experience as a whitewater.
No.
So
No, I mean, his sister had been out there, did a little bit of guiding, but she was just living out there, enjoying it. So Jeff, my friend, that's how we kind of got plugged into let's go out there. Like there's no other reason. Go out and live out in the Smokies sounds good. We'll be whitewater raft guides. Sounds good. We went down the river 10 times, had to check out, go through a process. Next thing you know, we had a paddle in our hand, guiding people down the river for the summer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a fantastic experience. Living in nature, just being kind of granola and not showering and growing our hair long.
The river was your bad.
It was, man. It totally was. It's not a clean river. Like, dude, we would get scars. Like you get nicked up from rocks or something, and they wouldn't heal all summer. They just stayed. Yeah, they didn't heal.
That's not.
Yeah, because there's anyway. I don't want to make claims, but
now, Eric, level was this.
Okay.
Is it true that people on the river are happy to give?
Yeah. Yes. I don't know where that comes from. I've never heard that.
What?
Creedence song.
Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
People on the river and a friend to give.
That's true. I guess they were. I guess they were. But I mean, that was so. When I was out there, I really fell in love, discovered nature and its beauty and omnipotence and omniscience and omnibenevolence.
They're big words, mister.
It was, man. I mean, it was divine. That's where I hit my first spiritual side of my life. As a young 19-year-old idiot from Arkansas. Just living.
Now, was that due to the nature or the shrooms?
Listen. You got a snort laugh out of me. You should be proud. You should mean that snort laugh.
It was spiritual, man.
It was. Hey, man, it was. It was, man. I'll admit it. I mean, anybody that's close to me, especially in college, knows that. I mean, like I kind of discovered how water flows around rocks. It was beautiful. I mean, it's so simple but so complex. Like, how did that happen? Right. We created that. Whoa. So anyway, it was nature. wasn't shrooms. I was conscious. And then, but then that's what got me. I was like, man, I want to be a photographer and take pictures of waterfalls for us.
That's what inspired you to be a photographer?
Yes. Nature photography, bro.
Well, I get it. But
yeah, I wanted to backpack, hike. I mean, in college.
You wanted to be the National Geographic.
Absolutely. I applied for National Geographic as an intern photographer like 4 years in a row. Never got it. But man, I was going for it. Like, I mean, I go out and take nature shots and that, what I didn't do was I didn't add the element of people in. I was like trying to be I was trying to take pictures for like outdoor photographer Arizona highways, but then submit it to National Geographic. And you're like, look at me. But it's probably best anyway. I mean, like, I don't think I would have been a good National Geo photographer because it was, they're obviously more journalistic. But anyway, so I got into that, and then my buddy and I, we were nature photographers basically, and we in the journalism department, and so we wanted to start our own magazine, outdoor magazine for Arkansas. So then he ended up passing away of cancer that year. He was like 29 years old at the time.
So sad.
Yeah, it sucked. I was only I think 22. He's a little bit older, but he passed away. But then I took a job for the Northwest Arkansas Times newspaper as a photographer, specifically because of the location. Like I had graduated, and I was like, I want to work where there's really great nature in Arkansas, and obviously Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas was an epicenter, and I wanted to work for a paper there, and that's how I got it. I came over and interviewed, and I got the job as a newspaper photographer. But then I was like sitting there in Fayetteville where I could drive 30 minutes an hour and be in some of the most glorious paradise in Arkansas, to be able to write and take pictures and write content for a magazine that told the story about Arkansas outdoors. And so that's what got me here, and it's what I started to do. And within a year and a half of working at the paper, I had designed my magazine, and I started moonlighting and working at the Olive Garden, opened up the Olive Garden in Fayetteville.
Did you really?
I did, yeah, when it opened up. And I worked those jobs and I started my magazine.
That's awesome.
At the ripe age of like 22, 23.
So you head first into being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was. I just knew that there was a magazine that needed to be created, be told about the beauty of Arkansas, because I sure the hell didn't know anything about it. Having been born in Arkansas, there was no really resource. You'd see the Arkansas tourism shoot out like freaking commercials on TV.
What year was this?
2000, 2001.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really limited of information, and so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell a story, because when I was whitewater raft guiding, I went to the Smokies from Jonesboro, which was 7.5 hours away. But I didn't know when I was growing up in Jonesboro that I could drive 45 minutes away and be, or an hour and 15 minutes and be at Sylamore Creek, which is one of the most beautiful, crystal clear pieces of water in the entire United States. I didn't know that I could go down to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and be at one of the greatest thermal waters in the entire world.
Did your family travel a lot?
I mean, they did a little bit, but you still,
So I asked that. The reason why I asked is because I didn't get around a lot, truly. I'm from southern Arkansas. My folks, like a big trip for us. We're lower middle class family, but a big trip for us was like going to Branson or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't we weren't guys that went to, Seattle or New Mexico or
So we would go to like Memphis and
yeah, Memphis. Sorry, I've got sinus issues.
Okay, all right.
It's
well,
not
every
you.
time you do, I'm thinking
It's
like
not you.
I feel
No.
something. And
I would go, Eric, you've got this.
okay, that's fair. Let's make
I'm
that.
the bro that said we've had this discussion before.
You're right. I'm sorry.
My nose.
I'm just nervous because I'm in the studio. And but yeah, we didn't. We go to Memphis and go shopping, or they did take us to Hot Springs when I was really young. And but we didn't do a lot of ecotourism. My dad would take us out to the Spring River. We'd go trout fishing quite a bit, which was only an hour from Jonesboro. But even then, in my mind, in reality, you would see more pictures of Colorado and the Smoky Mountains and Wyoming, and the desert, all these beautiful places. But nobody was saying, hey man, an hour down the road, look how beautiful, Sylamore Creek is, or the Buffalo, or the White River or whatever. So anyway, I was like, man, I got to tell the story, right? And so that's what I did after I moved here about a year and a half. I quit the newspaper and started that, and I didn't know
How long did you do that?
I did it for about a year and a half, almost 2 years till I ran out of money. I literally I didn't know what the word entrepreneur meant at all. It was definitely not a class. I had heard it, of course, growing up, but I didn't have any clue what that was. I just knew a magazine needed to be started, and of course, having that mentality, like I wanted to create just a great magazine. I wanted to have really fantastic pictures. I wanted the quality of the print.
You still have them?
Yeah, I got some copies. Yeah, I need to bring them up sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Because they were actually really great quality. Like I knew the resolution the images needed to be in the raw format to be printed correctly in 300 DPI in the magazine. I knew it full bleeds and all.
You laid everything out?
I laid everything out. I had
That's a lot of work.
It was. And it was solo for a while. I had some people helping eventually, designer brought in, but like the first one I was laying out in Adobe, it was when Cork Express was really the big one, and Adobe InDesign came out, and I took the chance on Adobe InDesign. I remember I spent $1,700 to get the new, because this is when you get the hard or the software.
I was just talking about this the other day. Yeah man.
Software, the CDs, right? And I'd ordered $1,700 on eBay. Mind you, I was 22 years old, And the $1,700 I'd saved up, big deal. Bought this on eBay, never showed up. The dude ripped me off. Got scammed. And of course, guess who didn't do anything about it? eBay. Not our problem. So that was one of my first experiences of e-com.
Oh man.
Buying. But anyway, I had a Nikon scanner that would scan in all of our slides, and it would digitize it, right? And then just sitting there and laying stuff out and learning, talking to printers, learning how to, what all the gutters and trims and bleeds needed to be, and how to paginate, and laid it all out, sent it to press. And then I brought in a designer, and he helped. And I was out looking for editorial contributors, really talking that game. I wasn't, and I'm fine. And I kind of started talking to advertisers, and I really started talking to advertisers when I didn't have enough money to pay for the magazine, about the third issue. And then I was begging, right, for advertisers. But I did not have a business sense. I had it was very 100% clearly editorial storytelling sense. And I knew how to tell a story with quality, but I didn't know anything about the importance of advertising the business side. So clearly I ran out of money, at some point, and wasn't able to continue to produce. But that, because of my editorial and my abilities that I dug deep in, I was able to start another company, a little design agency, where I started laying out magazines for other publishers. Oh. And so that kind of started on my second journey. That was a company I called Now Creative. And that kind of started like in 2003 or 4, did that for a few years. I was also working some other, either day jobs that I was doing on the night or vice versa throughout the years, and built that up and got some pretty good opportunities. And then, digital really started coming in. And then, of course, when the economy kind of collapsed, excuse me. I pulled a Martin Zweig. When the economy kind of took a tank, marketing is the first cut to have happen. And I worked some other odd jobs.
Recession is what you're saying.
Recession, yeah. And then
that's a horrible time.
Yeah, it was. But then, I was taking. I was doing wedding photography, baby photography, senior portraits, to custom layout design, commercial photography, editorial photography, high-end print. I was probably one of the best. I would put myself at being one of the best, like, designers of high-end print back in the day. Like, I knew I was doing 14/14 color processes. Usually it's 4/4. Well, I had coatings and special PMS inks and special coatings that made it 14/14. And then like 3-ring binders with custom covers to them, and like very specified, very expensive pieces. And I was going to print presses for my clients. So I had a good business going. Then that recession happened. But I remember sitting there one day, I had all this photo equipment. I had about probably $15,000 worth of photo equipment in my studio. And, and I was like, you know what? I'll never make more money if I'm still behind that stupid camera and behind that computer design and executing my work that I'm selling. So I was like, I'm going to sell every bit of this. I literally sold every bit of it, and I just started writing scopes of work. And I took all the experience of publishing, advertising and marketing and design, and then I just started going and consulting with clients, helping with strategies, and helping them to build a creative layout of their brand and marketing and whatever. And put all that creative attention in the scope of work. I've actually legitimately writing a document explaining what's going to happen and what they're going to do, a plan. And then they would sign off on it, and then I'd find other people to execute the work for me on contract. And then, then digital came, got a big e-commerce site. That's when I met my co-founder, Alex Ahmad, for Whytespyder. So when he came on, we created a company called Whytespyder that was specifically for digital commerce, e-commerce.
Was it that in the beginning? Was it that right away? Did you have a vision for that right day one?
Yeah. Well, our vision for Whytespyder is that it's going to be a search engine optimization first e-commerce company, meaning that we believe that you can't cheat search engine optimization. It's like a paradox that Google has where it cannot lie to its users, or else people will quit using Google. And so, especially at that time, there were a lot of people trying to trick and get up higher in the organic rankings. in a false, misleading way. And our belief was no, we're going to help e-commerce sites rise to the rankings the right, correct way. Therefore, you have white listing, and then the spiders represented the Google crawlers and the robots. And you know, Whytespyder
completely makes sense. I remember when you guys opened up shop in Fayetteville. I was like, that is such a unique name, and I wonder what the meaning is. And now I know, and I can't believe I've never asked you that.
Yeah, I mean, we would get asked that just randomly over the years, but that's the reason why. And then we had Y's instead of I's because Whytespyder.com with I's was already bought, and so I changed them to Y's, and it looked a little bit cooler, made it even more unique, and so that's kind of the dawn of that. And so we went out and started helping people, build e-commerce sites, and we actually got quite a few, like where we would do D2C, e-commerce sites, but we're doing A to Z. I mean, by that time we had learned, from database migration, CRM setup, email marketing, SEO, SEM, all the components, how to build Magento-based e-commerce sites, and using Silver Pop and integrations and all this pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and then
I know a decent amount of what I know enough. We'll say that to be dangerous, and people don't realize truly. It's nuts.
And this was before like your big commerce and Shopify's.
Oh yeah, no, you had to do it manually, open source,
custom stack, man.
Yeah.
But then one thing led another, and being that we're in the local market, I mean, like Walmart was just like e-commerce started becoming real for the giants. We actually saw it before really, I think the industry, it was interesting. It's so weird just playing ball with what you're good at, and being fortunate to be in an industry that's going to grow rapidly, which nobody can really predict, but you can kind of see it coming, right? And to be like saying, I don't know that artificial intelligence is going to be really a big thing. That's negative thinking, when it's like the reality is, yes, dude, think about it for a minute, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to really consider the impact of what technology is doing. And so back then is e-commerce, people were saying, oh, I don't think e-commerce is going to be really a big thing. People are always going to want to go to malls. They're always going to go to the store. So it might be 1% of our business. So we're not going to pay much attention to it. That was the attitude back then. And, we were building D2C sites, and so building the e-commerce infrastructure was one thing. That might cost $50,000 or something for the project, depending on the size of it. But the really expensive and difficult part was marketing and driving traffic to your e-commerce site, which a lot of people didn't understand about the business. But we started noticing really early on, it was like, because we could say, hey, for this, bottle of water, my marketing ad plan would be go to Google, use Google AdWords, and spend, it'd be 30 cents to bid on, spring water, and then 35 cents to bid on bottled water. And I could drive this national search and point it to my site. Well, within about an 18-month time period, that 30 cents to bid on that went to like $1.50. And you're talking about massive increase on the cost to advertise. And then we started like, what the hell's going on? Well, what we started seeing was you had the Amazons and the eBays and the Walmarts of the world starting to bid on terms where they didn't really do that much before. You might have had Amazon, but if you had just Amazon only, you didn't have them. Nobody's really competing with them. They're kind of in a broad territory of bidders.
The guys that really understood the internet from 1995 to about 2003 raked in so much cash.
Big time.
They were just
big time,
so far ahead.
It really was. And I mean, so, when that competition of the big forces, the really big money stakeholders, like now you got all the big brands and you got the big retailers bidding on those keywords, well, the auction price goes up, and it really made it difficult for us to help e-com companies become successful without the sticker shock of, no, that's going to cost you $500,000 this year to advertise and drive traffic for your water bottle site. Now, it makes sense, but who has the $500,000 versus, $50,000? And so we saw that happening, and then being here, I'm like, okay, now the big guys are starting to play this e-com game. What does this mean? And so looking at our market, we had a lot of suppliers clustered around. Walmart's right here next door to us. And we're like, man, how do we get into this business a little bit, and And then I was like, man, Walmart's getting into e-com. I mean, like, we can probably help them. And I had never really looked at a Walmart product page, very much. And then I remember one day somebody saying, yeah, if you want to help Walmart, help them with this .com stuff. And I remember looking at, a very prestigious brand with a very prestigious product detail page on Walmart.com at the world's largest retailer, who, by the way, was their largest account in the world for brick and mortar for sales period. And I remember looking at this page and I'm going, none of this is optimized for SEO. None of this page is. The images on it are absolutely terrible. You can't tell what the product is. You can't see the details of the product. You can't see it in the packaging. And the headline's absolutely ferocious and not optimized. And so is the body and the content. And there's not a freaking video on here. I'm like, this is Ecom 101. Like, I mean, they're completely missing the boat. What the hell is happening? This is unacceptable. And so I literally via LinkedIn reached out to Walmart contact and expressed that, hey, this is who we are. We know everything A to Z to e-com. I think we can help the supplier community. I think we can help you win. And they're like, yeah, we need some help. We want some help. And so we just went on that rampage. And for the first 2 years, nobody would really listen. But it was so freaking obvious. It's so freaking obvious,
What time period is this?
It had been like 2014.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, I remember it very vividly because I always kept track of, the local buzz, what's going on with different people. And I remember you were the guy that was waving the flag, the e-com flag, and you're the highest ever. You're really shaking it because anytime your name was brought up, I remember. You were just driving that message home of like, this is the future. This is where it's going, and we're behind the 8 ball on it.
And people would come in, other competitors would come in and get on it for a little wave, and then they run back to something else. I remember going to meetings after meetings, and we kind of have a wide open territory because no one else wanted to mess with it because every other agency and every supplier was focused on brick and mortar shopper marketing, rightfully so in a lot of ways, but we're over here going, we can help you with your .com. Like, well, we don't really need any help with that, but we knew that that's not how Walmart was thinking. Like Walmart knew that it had to go digital. It's just no one else that's supporting Walmart understood that Walmart was going to go digital and the reason Walmart was going digital is because the customer has gone digital. Their behaviors have changed. And it wasn't because Amazon's beating them. No, it's because the customer demand has changed, and customer demand changes because technology changes and enabled them. Because if you remember in 2008 is when the iPhone and the smartphones came out. Now you have e-commerce in your hand 24/7. And it took 4 or 5 years for people to go, oh shit, I can buy something online with my phone right now and get it shipped to my door. All that mentality, shopper behaviors were changing, but everybody was.
I think so. So I always had a thought process on that piece of it. There were naysayers, but I always said, because I was always on board with it. I'm like, this is obviously where this is going. Just outside looking in, and I wasn't anywhere near involved what you are in this, but it was just obvious that things were changing and more accessible, faster, better, right? But I think it was because I remember being involved in a few different conversations, not as part of the digital piece, but part of the in-store piece, talking about digital. And honestly, I believe it was one of those deals, another one of my sayings, in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king. And so everybody was blind. And on top of it, when you don't know much about it, it's easier just to be like, no, I don't think this is where it's the easy way out. And I saw a lot of people taking it. I did see a lot of people that just didn't want to mess with it because if there's a flash in the pan.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. It was very foreign to be like, hey, Eric, shopper marketing's becoming huge, and I'm over here in the digital side. I'd be like, I don't. And so, but I think that we were fortunate in the sense that we didn't have any business really with Walmart. Didn't really, and so we didn't have much to lose to continue to go wave the flag. I believed in what was happening. I knew that it was coming, and that was part of the resilience to kind of continue to push it because, what else? It's not like I had a bunch to lose. I mean, I was distracted from a lot. Obviously we had a good B2B side of our business that was doing well, and it was risky still for me to go after that market, which we didn't have any business. We're doing well over here, but this one seems like it's a good scalable growth angle versus staying here. It could be better to be dealing with the world's largest retailer and their suppliers than it is hanging out on the B2B side playing ball against the Shopifys and the big commerces and Magentos and everybody like that. And so there was a risk to that. But once it started catching on, then of course, once things start catching on, I had a land where I had 0 competitors to a land within 6 months. I remember that time period is really 2017 when things started shifting. And next thing I know, I have 10 competitors.
What did they call? What was it? Hang on. Y'all had an acronym. What was your acronym? Y'all had an acronym for it because it
Merchandising?
No. No. Not CSR. What was it? I can't remember. Y'all had it was a specific content. There was a content something.
Oh, connected content part.
That's it. But it was something before that one too. Yeah. That's what it evolved into. I was trying to remember because I followed it very closely.
It was content supplier partner or something.
Yeah,
Content
CSP.
CSP was the first one. Yeah. When we were at that first meeting.
Yeah.
And that was 2015.
That when Frank Aguirre was there?
No, it was before Frank Aguirre. So 2015 was JP de Villiers, Robert Pauly, and some other folks that initiated that program. And we were at that first meeting sitting in a room with a lot of tech stack companies, that were all about, like buy my software and we'll distribute to everyone in the world and all your problems are solved. But we were A to Z, like, no, you need a good attribute in order for your site to perform, to rise up in ranks and be seen by Google and seen by the search algorithm at Walmart. So our depth was like 100 times more about solving the problem of the customer. That plus the fact that we were local and we could talk with Walmart and we would meet and hear the biggest thing, but hear and listen to what Walmart was saying and then go hear and listen to what the suppliers are saying and be able to be that bridge between the two to make something that was actually effective for the supplier and for Walmart and efficient, So, but that 2017 period is when we started seeing things elevated. And if I recall correctly, I know that Mark Laurie, the purchase of Walmart from Walmart of Jet was kind of one of the big eye openers. It's like, oh my gosh, Walmart just made a $3 billion investment for a .com company. And then of course, from Mark Laurie and the Jet team coming in, really started instituting change and culture within the Walmart ecosystem. And so a lot of the suppliers and the agencies were just, until those things started developing. Then of course you had changes in the merchant organizations. There's all these changes that continue to compound, labs being built, Walmart Connect, becoming a thing versus, the old archaic system of advertising, and it used to be 100% managed services. Now it's like almost full self-service, and all those evolutions have happened since 2016.
Yeah.
In
short time frame.
Very short time frame. And I was close enough, and I was, and I was really, I was paying more attention to that digital side and then I could start seeing this, and I would actually read Doug McMillan's quotes or John Ferner's or, any of the leadership team, and I would read their quotes in news articles. And unlike, I would say, most of the community reading over it going, just another fluffy quote. Like I was reading it, but I remember like reading it going, oh my gosh, Doug McMillan just said this. And like, I literally remember reading those and I remember one quote specifically. He said a long time ago, he said, time is just as much of a value as money is for the Walmart customer today. Mm-hmm. So convenience is, basically where we're going. Mm-hmm. And I just remember seeing that, and it dawned on me like, oh my gosh, that is so true. And this is coming from somebody that surely knows what he's talking about, steering this big ship called Walmart, and this massive revolution of retailers is happening right before us. And this is called omni-channel. And they were saying omni-channel real early on. And I was like, a lot of people just think of that and just take it for whatever it is, just mean a whole bunch of different stuff that's going to happen and everybody, But no, you're talking about omni-channel retail. We're talking about a different form of retail. This is like as significant as putting in checkout lanes in general stores, right? Like, this is a significant turn of times. And I just remember reading those and actually paying attention and then applying them to my business and then going out and evangelizing that, and then building products and services and pricing all around that, and partnerships, and just building my whole entire business around really these quotes and what's going on in the industry, and then just being completely willing, 100% willing to evolve with whatever is needed, in the market, seeing, like I would be as just as useful for Walmart as I would be useful to the suppliers, because there's a disconnect between the retailer and the suppliers, right? There's a tension there. It's a good tension, but one's selling to the other, and so the retailer doesn't always know what the supplier's hurdles are and their problems are. So they're over here going, give me this, but they can't get what they need from the suppliers, because guess what? The suppliers don't have the resources. They don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Patrick Sparrow said this to me one time. He said, I think he said it on this podcast the first time. You know Patrick, obviously. Yes.
Legend.
Yes, legend in retailtainment.
And probably more beautiful hair than you have.
100%. 100%. He uses Pantene.
It's fair. We won't say who you use.
No. No, I'm not going to do that. So he said, Walmart has the gold. The suppliers are just trying to prospect, but they have no picks and shovels. We just got to get them the picks and shovels.
Yeah.
And that's what you would do. That's what Whytespyder did. That's the way I see it. It's somebody that saw a gap, stepped in there, and helped bring people together to create,
Yeah, we believe we were right the whole time. Fortunately, we were right. I think that, and the thing about it was, so we saw a lot of people come and go, that as this thing started snowballing, saw a lot of people get involved. We've seen a lot of demise, honestly. If you look around the community, there's a lot of, quite frankly, agencies that aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
There's a lot of service providers aren't here anymore.
There's a lot of guys that you never would have expected to gone away that did. And that's one way to feel blessed, though. I know at Design Signs we're working on 15 years now. We could go away tomorrow. That's how you get it. You don't take that for granted, but it's a blessed thing to be able to say that. Ride a wave.
You made it, and it's like, but I think that there was something at the core, and it's funny, like, and you started this whole conversation about psychology, but then I also brought in, like, there's something at the core to everything that's going on, and I still believe it today, right? People want information. People need to be told a story, and they want the truth, they want accuracy, they want it to be complete, and they want it to be easy. Right? No one, like, the reason why the gosh dang telegram is not a good technology anymore is because the gosh dang telephone came out and I could talk to you now instead of learning Morse code and transcribing it into freaking letters. It's faster, it's more convenient. But the principle is still the same. It's communication. And so, literally, like, and the reason I feel like that we sustain through a lot of different, like, and you got to remember, like, just because we say we're digital doesn't make us relevant. Like Walmart's saying, do this, do this, do this. And then the market, Amazon's doing this and that. And then the iPhone is doing this and that. And, and then the apps are doing this. And, and so you have a lot of people entering in. Like there was so many tech companies that were entering into this omni-channel space and this content service provider space that was just playing with the top surface level fluffy trends that were going on. And then they'd fall out. I would see them come in and fall out in 6 months. And it would be the biggest PR push, and all the suppliers are using such and such. And, and here we are, this little team, local little team that's having to fight against some of the most venture-backed, massive companies, global public companies in the world. And we're fighting that, as it becomes even more popular, especially in 2018 and 19 when it really starts ramping up. But what we did was I knew it came down to that product information, this can, how many ounces, what's it made of, where's it made, what's the sustainability, what's the weight of it, what's the color of it, how many comes in a pack, do I have the pictures for that, do I have all the attributions and the content related to that item. And it's about the gosh dang information. It's not about how cute you can make something or how fast you can make something cute.
Smart brevity. It's smart brevity. It's just going straight for it.
Just give me the freaking information, because the reality is that people would go to Amazon and they would buy from Amazon, not because Amazon came out of the Prime. And it's not because of these little tricks, it's because Amazon did one hell of a fantastically smart, hard piece of work back in the late 90s, early 2000s, is they focused on providing more content for that item and explaining that. And so when you are finally there on that gosh dang page and making a decision as a customer, I'm going to buy this. I don't need to go any other place to find information about the stupid can, because if I exit out of that page and I have to go to Coca-Cola's website to find information about this product, most likely I'm not going to come back and buy from you.
You've burned my time.
I might buy direct from them.
Yeah.
And so they did but they worked hard at that. It wasn't like they just wanted all of their suppliers to provide it. No, they had people, humans, and then bots, and then hybrids of that, of bringing in all the information they can so that they could beat every product page on the planet. Now, once they have the data, they can do more with it. They can cause more filtering, more sorting, more convenience, and you can tie it with behaviors, and people also bought. And all these things build off this central piece of a freaking piece of content about the item. And then guess what happens? Now, if I'm Coca-Cola, I didn't used to sell on Amazon, but now I'm going to go to Amazon. Guess what? I see PepsiCo with their product pages, and they got pictures. They got 10 pictures and a long form piece of content and feature sets and all this stuff. Guess what I do? Okay, well, Coke, it's obviously that I have to have a better product page than they do if I'm going to win. And so it's this self-perpetuating reality of all these suppliers and sellers on Amazon knew to go give content to Amazon in order to win on Amazon. Not to mention they didn't have a brick and mortar. I couldn't touch and feel, so I had to buy it that way. Oh, and then, by the way, as Amazon was doing all that, guess who was indexing them for information? When you typed in best soft drink, Google, we go, there's not a better place than Amazon product pages. Remember when I said earlier, you can't be Google and lie on search results. The only thing it could do is say, hey, guess what, searcher? Here's probably your best place to go because they have the most freaking information related to this item. So we're going to have to send you there, And so you created this paradox of where Walmart was fighting this fight, and then you'd have all these fluffy companies coming in. Oh, we worked with Amazon for 30 years, and we do X, Y, and Z. But they don't do anything about the problem of information about the product. And so that Walmart's catalog was suffering from information because guess what? Even though they had the suppliers for 20, 30 years longer than what Amazon had, think about that. They can't get the information because all of its suppliers were used to brick and mortar sending packs. Now, sending pallets to distribution centers. And the only thing you need on here is your packaging to sell on shelf. Digital is a whole different thing. And so I've told that story quite a bit, but like it still drives me crazy because there's so much fluff out there. I don't know why we it always just like I still can't understand how we can just skip over the heart of what the problem was.
Well, I think that we're going to have to wrap this up, Eric, because you're going to kick me out. You keep looking at the time like
it's crazy how fast
it does. It does nuts. It's always every time we talk. But I will say, I think on a information. Speaking of underdoing it on information and overdoing it on fluff, I've told people this is just a .com issue. It's an everything issue. So go drive down the interstate. Tell me a billboard that you can read. People are paying thousands of dollars for some of the oldest. It may be digital, but for some of the oldest advertising, large scale advertising. Tell me a billboard that you can read. What you're talking about is putting the product front facing, giving all the key attributes, and just spelling it out for somebody to easily understand. But so many people will miss that. It's like the guy, I make this joke all the time, it's like the guy that decides to start a business. What does every first guy that starts a business do? He puts vinyl on his truck. Got a black back glass, but he decides to put the vinyl in a camo color. You're not going to read it.
Yeah,
and you're not going to grab it.
Yeah,
and what you're saying is that was the lack thereof was getting the right information across in the few seconds of an attention span that a person has to do it.
I'll also say, man, like I mean, the biggest key I think to what we were able to accomplish is the fact that we worked hard. I mean, I don't mean that nobody else did. What I'm saying is that there's this work that no one wants to do. Because it doesn't. It's just not fun work, right? It's not sexy or glamorous to write attributes into Excel spreadsheets. It's not sexy or glamorous to look at PDPs compared to other PDPs and do an audit, or to learn about the new rules and regulations as to what attributions are being called for, and then to go back and do it all over again. I mean, it's just rough. Rough work, it's tedious. It's never consistent. Not many people wanted to do that. And so, but I think that our culture, we built a culture that we just go deep that way. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's what you wanted to talk about today, but that's been
that's what we talked about. Exactly what we're talking about. Well, I like to keep it at about an hour, but I would love if you'd come back on. Yeah. Well, I mean, it just depends. Well, you own this place. You want to do another 2? Let's go Joe Rogan on it. So tell me about...
Let's do it. Hell, it might work, right?
Yeah. Who knows? Well, I want to have you back because there's so much more that we could talk about. But that's a good start. You're doing a lot of other things now. You want to talk about that just real fast? I mean, when I say real fast...
Hey, I know what you mean. This ain't my first rodeo.
So what is Eric doing now?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is podcastvideos.com, which is, I mean, the studio's where we're sitting, but there's a lot more to the company than just what we're doing right now. Really exciting as I peel back the onion of video. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's some crazy territory, but super cool. And then there's, I'm doing some stuff with a local record label company called Lovemore Records. Wish I could be doing more. It's a capacity issue, but really great founders there that I'm involved with that just are helping develop artists, original singer songwriters, and then I got a couple other little media sites and things that I'm involved in.
Very cool.
Trying to get it off. I mean, yeah, it's fun, man. I mean,
yeah, you're in a good spot to be venturing out yet again.
Yeah, I know. I like it. Like I turn around, I'm like, what the hell have I done? Seriously, like as I'm working on like some of the tedious crap of business, like freaking QuickBooks, right? Or
you're like Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again.
But there is something. But man, I tell you, like I am glad I did it. You know, as I'm about 9 months now where I don't, where I no longer work at Whytespyder, aka Flywheel, who bought us, or Omnicom, who bought Flywheel, which was a fantastic exit. You know, as far as like, you know, love everybody there, great people, great company. It's just time to move on to podcast videos. I kind of created a little monster I didn't know it existed, and so now it just starts pulling capacity. And yeah, so I find myself like working on like freaking software subscriptions. Like, what the hell are we still subscribed to this? No one has opened up this freaking web browser, you know, for that subscription in the last 3 months. Like, why are we spending $10 a month on, you know, that kind of tedious stuff again, or CRM related. But, you know, at the same time, it's kind of fun. And I love seeing the people come in and just take on challenges and watching them grow. That's super cool.
Yeah, you've had a lot of great people here.
Yeah, man, it's fun. I mean, they got a fun little culture. You know, I guess I love that startup.
Am I your favorite, Eric?
Favorite client?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my favorite show. You know, I do appreciate, like, what's the most valuable, though, is like, you know, Mark and I were actually talking about this just earlier on our show. Like, having, like, being able to listen to, like, what you've experienced out of this business. Like, what can be better? Can that camera angle be better? Can the audio be better? Can our distribution? There's just, it's the same thing all over again, just in a little bit of a different atmosphere. And that's what's awesome. I appreciate you participating in it so I can get some raw feedback. And actually next week we're bringing a group of y'all together.
Yeah.
To hear straight up what y'all think.
Straight up.
Just straight up give us the hard truth, man.
Oh, man.
You get tear us up.
I've got 4 or 5, 8.5 by 11 at 10-point font.
Complaints.
Yeah.
You need to stand up.
One of my glasses. Where shall we start?
That's right. Do it. I can't wait to watch the reaction of the team. Just sweat. But
Eric Howerton, we're ending this. Thank you for coming on. I love you, Eric. You say it. You tell me you love me, Eric. Say it on
I'm
camera.
not an emotional person. I have no emotions. I'm unemotional. Call bullshit on anybody that says they don't have emotions. You can't, Benny. All right?
That's it.
I love you too.
I know you do. All right.
You're good people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.